and welcome along to the state of Scottish football. I'm your host this Friday evening, it's Colin Watt, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by my good friend David Reid. David, how are you, mate?
Very good, Colin. Scottish Cup we can't wait.
Well, as we said in the tagline here, who will or what will be the shock upset of the Scottish Cup fourth round? We're going to go through every single tie in the round, giving our predictions, and we'll focus on some of the bigger games. And you know what? If your team doesn't like what we have to say, then you can just put in a strongly worded 8-point essay to the SFA and see what they've got to say about it. Right? That's all you can do. You can put that in there and we'll have constructive discussion and you'll probably not have to see us again. That's how it works, Dave. Is it not? If you don't like it, you just put it into the SFA.
No, exactly. I mean, Rangers, I've noticed a lot of their fans are speaking about the conspiracies and allegations and whatever have you. And yeah, it's not a nice sight at all.
Well, I think they'll find out it's a conspiracy this evening when we have decided to cover their game last. But don't worry, Rangers fans. It is a fair assessment here because we're going to wait and find out the team news and we'll cover it live as your game kicks off not long after we come off air. But a big warm welcome to everyone who is watching us. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere, and places we probably don't want to be as well. But you know what? We'll be on there and we'll be very comfortable at it as well. David, it's been a fantastic week of Scottish football so far. And do you know what? I was thinking the other day, I'm not looking forward to the Scottish Cup, but there's just some sort of buzz about it.
I think there is, and more so, I think, Colin, because last year we didn't get an opportunity to watch any games at all because of coronavirus. So it's the fans have got a different impetus about it now, a different enthusiasm where they can go to the games. Obviously, if you're a Celtic fan, you've got Alloa away, where it's just maybe half an hour along the road, and you're going to a new ground for some Celtic fans. Kelty, St Johnstone, obviously half an hour away for St Johnstone fans. St Johnstone fans will bring you a big following. There's some standout ties in there as well. Obviously, you've got Bankstakers, Raith Rovers that will capture Aberdeen football community, but also Raith Rovers. It's a potential banana skin for them as well. So lots of exciting ties in there.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to catch up on the episodes so far this week, you can do so on the State of Mind channel. Remember, if you're watching live on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, share the video. It really does help us. And we are going to start today's journey around Scottish football at the game featuring the current holders of the trophy. Kelty Hearts versus St Johnstone tomorrow afternoon. Remember to leave your predictions in the comment section to the right or below, and we will bring it up. St Johnstone go into this game having not won a game in 10 games, which is a horrendous run for the current holders. And the last time that the current holders of the tournament went out in the first round that they were involved in was back in 2012, 2013, when Hearts lost 1-0 to Hibs. I'm not going to go in there with a prediction right away, David, but if you're looking at this is a massive banana skin for St Johnstone. Not 1 in 10 games. Kelty Hearts absolutely flying at the top of League One. There is every chance that the cup holders could go out the first game.
Well, before I start on your question there, Kevin Thompson must be very confident because he's on Premier Sports tonight being a pundit for Rangers Stirling games. So he must be very confident in this game tomorrow. But on to the game as a whole. Big game for both sides. This obviously for Kelty, it's an opportunity for that. Hi, Brian. Hope you well. It's an opportunity for Kelty to get that banana skin, as you alluded to there. Obviously, Kevin Thompson will to make another statement. They've got a tremendous victory in the last round over Montrose, winning on the replay and on penalties. That's a fantastic victory, considering it's at Links Park and Montrose had a good home record prior to that. So that was pretty good. And then they've been flying in the League Two prior, apart from obviously the defeat to Arran a few weeks back. So Kelty are flying, and it's their league to lose with regards to the League Two title race, and it's probably going to be a formality. They're going to be League One this year, so it's a is that a welcome distraction? I don't think that's the right expression, but it is one of those games where there's no pressure on them at all. They can go out, enjoy a day. I don't think it's a free hit. I don't think the expression free hit can be used here because a free hit is when it's somebody not expected to win at all against a side that's flying. So this is completely different because St Johnstone, as you alluded to, are a side that are struggling with form, struggling for results, confidence is low, they need a result from somewhere. And this is the perfect opportunity for Kelty to go and get a result. The other way around, obviously St Johnstone need to hit that defence button of the Scottish Cup trophy that they won last year, beating Hibs 1-0. This is a big game for Colin Davidson's side, and there's been a lot of social media chat that if St Johnstone get beat tomorrow, Colin Davidson should be shown the door, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with it at all, but it is a big game in terms of St Johnstone trying to resurrect their season a little bit. Not that it's died as such, but it has kind of evaded down, and they have lost some big games. So massive game this for both sides tomorrow, and may the best team win. There's no replays this season, so after the fourth round, sorry. So that obviously helps in terms of when a game gets a little bit edgy. Sometimes the League Two team or the team lower down from the Premiership can tire. But I think we've seen last night with Cove Rangers how they put in such an effort for a good part of 110 minutes. Then obviously Kevin Nisbet opened the scorer, but Cove Rangers could take a lot of points from their performance, and that's because the Hibs side, who would have been rocked by the loss of Martin Boyle, understandably so. Also, on the same token, it was a Cove Rangers side that were up for it, and Hibs didn't adapt to that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, going back to the game last night, Hibs beating Cove Rangers 1-0. Cove Rangers absolutely flying at the top of League One. But again, when you look at the teams on paper, you're thinking this should be a comfortable win for the Premiership side every single time. And even though St Johnstone are 10 games without a win now, you'd still think, yeah, do you know what? They've got enough on paper. They've got guys like Ali Crawford. They've got Nadir Chief up front. They've got a fantastic goalkeeper in Xander Clark. They've got guys like Sean Rooney, guys that were pivotal in them actually going and winning the Cup last season. However, there just seems to be something that's not clicking for St Johnstone this season. And I said it to a couple of the people in the group chat about the state of Scottish football. For me, they're one of my favourites to go down this year. And it's unbelievable the kind of downturn that the St Johnstone scene has had over the last sort of 7 months. And it can't all come down to the players leaving, just as Brown Warrior alludes to here. Has he not lost a few players from last season off the back of the Cup double? He has, and guys like Ali McCann and Jason Kerr. But I don't think that's enough to see St Johnstone go down. And they got good money for these players as well. So if they believe in Callum Davidson, it's about time they backed him and got him out of this position, because let's be brutally honest, in Scottish football, 9 times out of 10, you can buy your way out of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, St Johnstone kind of had the laid back approach when McCann and Kerr moved on. I mean, St Johnstone have been renowned over the years of losing big players, but still having enough cohesion about them and enough of a close-knit bubble to be merit in Premiership football for consecutive years. But this season, it's well and truly in doubt, and it's been shown by results such as losing to Dundee away and losing to Ross County away on the verge of the winter break there. And this is a big week coming up for St Johnstone. Obviously, priority first and foremost on tomorrow at Kelty. But yes, they have not replaced McCann and Kerr. Crawford was brought in alongside Cameron McPherson to replace McCann. But in terms of McCann's approach compared to the two other players, the Crawfords and they don't have a forward-thinking approach about them. So that's a huge concern. Obviously, also defensively, obviously McCart and Gordon haven't had the same threat about them. They haven't had the same diligence about them, and it is a concerning situation for Callum Davidson indeed. And if they lose this game tomorrow, you fear the worst for St Johnstone. And as I alluded to, it's a big week this week with Kelty tomorrow and then Dundee on Wednesday. And if they lose those two, it's panic stations at St Johnstone probably.
The Kelty Hearts, as we mentioned, they are top of League Two. You're looking at who's their goal threats. You've got Nathan Austin with 14 goals in 16 games. And you've also got the man that seems to go on forever, Dave, Joe Cardle. He's still kicking a ball down at Kelty. 10 goals in 19 games. They seem to have moved him a bit further up the park. He was sort of moving backwards when he was at Dunfermline. But he's banging the goals in now. That's 24 goals between the two of them. St Johnstone have only scored 11 this season.
Yeah, they've got a fantastic team, Kelty. The two players I alluded to there, but they've also got Michael Tidser, who you'll know very well through his Morton days, a player that could just keep it calm and composed in the middle of the park. But also a player that has enough stamina to beat both ends of the park. He's a really good player. They've also got Jordan Foster, who was on the books at Dundee last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good defender.
Callum Higginbottom.
Higginbottom, yeah. Who's been there, done it, scored goals. So Kelty have got a lot of good players, but also they've got a really good nucleus of a team. They're not just about individuals, and they've shown that over the years. They've not just been a side that have had to rely on a few players. They've been a side that have done the trick, and Kelty's got a good approach. And they've also got the guy Thomas Riley, who I'm a big fan of. And sorry for any Celtic fans to hear, but he scored a goal for St Mirren against Celtic a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. St Mirren won that game, I think. So yeah, he'll be a big player for him tomorrow. The central midfield pairing of Cardle, Tidser and Riley are good players and will expose St Johnstone every given opportunity if St Johnstone aren't careful enough.
That was nice of you to dig up a game that most Celtic fans have tried to put to the foremost back of their minds. That horrible display at New St Mirren Park under Tony Mowbray. Look, let's get down to business here. St Johnstone have only scored twice away from home all season. 2 goals. They've scored 11 in total. There's been 21 games. They were pretty poor in the League Cup this season, even though they got to the semi-final. 90 minutes against a team like Kelty, who I know you said it's not a free hit, but for me, they turn up and they play their football. They are going to give St Johnstone an almighty struggle. And do you know what? I'm throwing it out there. I don't know if it'll be the shock of the round, but I am predicting Kelty Hearts to beat St Johnstone, and I'm going to go with 2-1 after extra time.
Yeah, obviously, just before I start here, Colin, bet responsibly if you're listening, viewers. But I put on a wee coupon for tomorrow, just with some of the shocks. And for £1, I could potentially win 16 grand back.
You're sharing that with me after this.
Correct. But yeah, I fancy Kelty to come out on top, and I'm going to go for 2-1 Kelty.
Is that in normal time or in extra time?
Good question. I'm going to go for normal time.
In 90 minutes. That would be a big surprise. If that does happen, does Callum Davidson lose his job?
Well, as I've touched upon, I don't think he deserves to, but will St Johnstone react in a negative, not a negative way, will they react in a different way? Probably, but St Johnstone aren't the club to panic, and they aren't a club that will go and sack managers within the just for they'll treat it like a pinch of salt and just move on. Basically, they're not the type of club that will go and just sack managers and just try and get a new manager.
I'm sure there'll be some managers out of a job that would be keen to take that job up, especially if there was money to spend in the last couple of days of the window. Let us know what your predictions are for this game. We're both going for Kelty to knock out the cup holders St Johnstone, and we've both gone for 2-1. Let us know what your scores will be. Now, we're going to do this in a sort of sports scene style. Because there's so many games to cover, you get the main focus on a couple of games, and then we're going to skim through a couple of others, just giving our quick predictions and thoughts on them. So the next 3 games that we're going to cover is Motherwell versus Morton, Kilmarnock versus Dundee United, and the game that you'll be attending tomorrow, David, Dumbarton versus Dundee. Let's start at Fir Park. Motherwell on a bit of a dodgy run. I don't think they've really recovered from the loss of Tony Watt to Dundee United yet. Still need to replace them. And at Capello, the Dougie Emery invasion seems to be going very well. 2 games in, 2 victories, 7 goals scored and none conceded. This could be a very difficult tie for Motherwell, and I think Graham Alexander will want to try and get a couple of goals early to take the pressure off them. My heart tells me one thing and my head tells me another. My head tells me that Motherwell will win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Morton got the job done. I'm going to go with Motherwell to win 2-1.
Yeah, Motherwell needed penalties last year to see off Morton, but I'm going to go for 1-0 Motherwell.
1-0 Motherwell, yeah. I remember that game well. Actually, my cousin who plays for Morton set up the equaliser, so if he is listening, I do apologise. I hope that you do get the victory tomorrow. Moving slightly down the coast to Kilmarnock, the news that broke a couple of hours before we came on air is that Kilmarnock have re-signed Kyle Lafferty. Now, that's a big signing for Derek McInnes' side, offering a bit of firepower up front. And they take on a Dundee United side who, again, are trying to find themselves a bit of form over the last couple of weeks. It's not quite been the heights that they were hitting at the start of the season. However, I just think when it comes to these kind of one-off cup games, Derek McInnes doesn't necessarily have the greatest of records. He did well at Aberdeen, but he was always prone to a wee shock or two here or there. I'm feeling quite comfortable to think that Dundee United will win. I've maybe been a bit excessive, but I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory.
Yeah, they've got a clean bill of health now, with the exception of William Smith. I'm expecting the Swedish goalkeeper Eriksson to play tomorrow, so I'm going to go 2-0 United.
2-0 United. That's a big signing for Kilmarnock, though, and Kyle Lafferty. I don't think he'll be registered in time, though.
Probably not, no, but yeah, big sign for Kilmarnock. And as he alluded to, he's got some unfinished business at Rugby Park.
It's a statement of intent, that, because you look at some of the clubs that he could have made the move to and he decides to go to the Championship. So it'll be interesting to see what his goal tally is at the end of the season. Speaking of another team that are in trouble, we go to Dumbarton versus Dundee. Dundee sitting towards the bottom of the table alongside St Johnstone, another team that could really be doing with a bit of a confidence win here in the Scottish Cup. Dumbarton, always a tricky place to go to. I remember going to a game there a couple of years ago, and it's always just that one stand, and the ball kind of swirls around, and you've got the breeze coming in from the Clyde. It's a difficult place to go to. Dundee could be doing with picking up a couple of goals, though, and I think, unfortunately, it'll go the way of Dundee. I fancy them to win 2-0.
I spoke to my fellow contributor Greg on Wednesday, and I told him I have a sneaky feeling about this one. 2-1 Dumbarton.
2-1 Dumbarton. Would it surprise you? I mean, James McPake's side have really struggled for form recently. They're not scoring a lot of goals. I mean, I don't think he'll get the sack necessarily if that was the case, but you'd think that on paper Dundee would have enough professionalism to turn up and get the job done.
I think it depends what team he plays, first and foremost. And then obviously what happens with the striking roles, because obviously Leigh Griffiths is obviously a player that's it's a well-win situation. It's a massive dilemma for him right now. James Baker has said that he's been fit and firing in goals in training, but training is a completely different complexion from games altogether. So there's that. How does he set up the midfield? There's doubts over Charlie Adam and when to play for tomorrow, so that might have a huge influence. And I've got a huge feeling about Dumbarton just based on that Clyde, as you rightly alluded to there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see that one. So this is your shock so far. Dumbarton to beat Dundee 2-1. We'll come back to another couple of games after our next featured game, which is the Premier Sports evening kickoff. It is Alloa Athletic versus Celtic through at the Indodrill Stadium. We got into trouble on Axon for calling it Recreation Park the other day. And it's Barry Ferguson's side versus Ange Postecoglou as Ange takes on his first Scottish Cup tie. Potential debut in this one, Dave, for new signing Matt O'Reilly. Considering some of the players that might be going away on international duty, do you think he'll be thrown into the mix?
Yeah, I think Cole. I was going to say Cole there. Beg your pardon. I think Celtic will change the system a wee bit. Not exactly the formation I thought that. I think they will give some players some game time, and O'Reilly will be included in that just to get himself up and running and get himself a debut in the green and white hoops of Celtic. And I can see Ange Postecoglou trying one or two different things just to take advantage of the situation. But you'll also be vigilant of the fact that they're playing Alloa, and Alloa on their day can be a good side, but they have been very hot and cold so far this season.
Brown Warrior comes in to say Celtic have no chance for the simple reason that it's same old Alloa, always cheating. That was a fantastic video from years ago. Well, you speak about Alloa's hot and cold streak. They're currently 8th in League One. They're only a couple of points above the relegation zone, and they've not won in the league since October 30th. So, I mean, talking about another free hit, Alloa have absolutely nothing to lose in this game, and I would fully expect Barry Ferguson to set his team up like that. I don't think they'll sit in and try and frustrate Celtic. I think they'll just go and have a go at them, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'll be honest with you by saying I didn't know it was as bad a run as that. I thought they picked up a few wins here and there, so that's a complete surprise within itself. But no, you're right. This is a free hit altogether for Alex. I mean, they'll be expected. It's basically a payday for them. Basically, Barry Ferguson won't admit that publicly, but there'll be a little bit of an incentive to this game, primarily due to the fact, obviously, Barry Ferguson will if you go back to the Glasgow Derby days, he played a massive figure in those games, playing in a blue jersey. And this is a big game for both Alloa and Celtic. This, I mean, if I don't think Alloa will have any chance of getting a result, but they'll be looking to go out and make some form of statement. It's not the first time Alloa staged a big Scottish Cup game in recent years. Broomhill Sports Club played Hibernian, so Alloa's been used to the blockbuster events, and this will be another one tomorrow.
You take a look at it, and there is some players within that Alloa side who, depending on how the game goes, could cause Celtic a bit of trouble. Now, the one player that kind of jumps out to me is the former Livingston midfielder Stefan Skugel. Now, he was someone who was linked with big moves down south. Nothing ever really materialised, and he's kind of made his way down the league. But he is one of those players who, on his day, can show a bit of class. And you know what? You never know, a wee free kick 25, 30 yards out, he'll just have a pop. And looking at it up front, I'm not sure whether they'll go with the on loan Ewan Henderson from Hearts, or whether they'll go with the talisman, the experience in Connor Salmon. But things like that, I mean, you look at these guys, only a couple of years ago they were playing in the Premier League. They know what it's like to come up against a Celtic and a Rangers, so I don't think they'll be scared coming into this game at all.
No, but for me, obviously the first 15-20 minutes will be crucial in the outcome of this game tomorrow, because I mean, if Alloa can keep the door tight, then obviously puts pressure and frustration onto Celtic. But if Celtic can go and hit the Indian bag first, and it obviously opens up the floodgates, and it could be damage limitation. So it's important that Alloa get off to a decent start tomorrow, and if they do that, obviously annoy Celtic, and they'll obviously be under a lot of pressure. So for Alloa, it is a free hit, and it's one of those where they can just enjoy the occasion, and then maybe a few beers and a pizza after the game.
I'm sure that will be the kind of ideal case for most Celtic fans if that is the scenario. Celtic will want to try and get out of this game with the least amount of injuries as possible, considering the massive game that is at Tynecastle on Wednesday night in the league. I'd be surprised to see Ange Postecoglou make whole-scale changes, although I can see things like Anthony Ralston coming back into the side. In goals, I'd expect to see Scott Bain. Maybe Liam Scales will get a run out at left back, but I mean, you take a look at how Hibs lined up last night against Cove, and I know Cove are top of League One and Alloa are towards the bottom, but I mean, these teams on their day, they can cause teams trouble, and if you make too many changes, it can come back and bite you in the backside.
Absolutely, and it's important that Ange Postecoglou's getting the right balance in terms of giving players some much needed game time, in terms of maybe changing the system about, or getting new players in the park. I think it is important that O'Reilly gets him in 45 minutes tomorrow for Ange Postecoglou, because it gets him adjusted, it gets him some much needed game time, and gets him used to the pressures and the limits of Scottish football. So it's important that I think that he gets good game time tomorrow. Also, I think it's important that they're giving new signings have arrived prior to O'Reilly coming in some game time as well, because they'll need to get some much needed fitness into them as well, because it's a big period for Celtic coming up. Obviously, there's a big Glasgow derby coming up. Not that Celtic are looking too far ahead, obviously, but yeah, tomorrow get the job done and on to Wednesday.
Someone who's been given the green light to be part of the squad tomorrow is Christopher Julian. It seems as if his rehab is finally over. I mean, that's only been something like 13 months since he picked up his injury. Who knows, maybe by the time the teams get announced tomorrow, they've picked up another one, but it's good to see him back in amongst the Celtic squad. And to be fair, it's a plastic pitch at Alloa. I can't see Celtic risking him, but it's just another option for Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, the guys at the Celtic City mind said exactly the same thing, that they don't think he should have been risked for tomorrow, or they don't think they should be risked big about it for tomorrow. But in terms of Julian, it's good to have him back. I wouldn't rush his recovery process any forward, because I mean, you've got okay defenders at this precise moment in time. Obviously, Starfelt came on a game on Monday when they played Hibs and won 2-0. But I mean, from a Celtic persuasion, it's important that they're getting. I say we there. Speaking of pardon, I'm not a Celtic fan.
Are you getting there, David? Are we converting you? Is this how it's working? David's big team finally announced.
Yeah, from a Celtic persuasion, it's important that they're obviously getting players' game time. Joey will play a massive part moving forward because Celtic, as I alluded to, Starfelt did have a good game on Monday. But also, alongside that, he has had his critics, and he will be an influential figure for Ange Postecoglou in the second half of the season.
Now, just a wee couple of stats before we go into the predictions. Alloa came into this round of the Scottish Cup, and I'm sure that our resident kind of behind-the-scenes mistress, Amy Canavan, won't be very happy to hear me saying this, but it was a 5-0 victory over her Bonnie Rig Rose in the previous round that saw Alloa take this tie against Celtic. So, I mean, 8th in League One versus 2nd in the Premiership. On paper, there's only one way that this goes. And for me, I think in real life, there's only one way that this goes. Pardon me, I am backing Celtic to win. I'm going to go for 3-0.
4-0.
4-0. You just want to one-up me. That's what it is.
Must be.
I'm telling you. I'm interested to see this coupon, by the way, afterwards. Look, we're going to go into, very briefly, another 3 ties in the round, and we'll start at David Martindale's Livingston in the Spaghetti ad, as Livingston take on a Ross County side buoyant after that victory over Motherwell through the week. With 10 men, that was an impressive victory for Malky Mackay's side against Motherwell.
Yeah, absolutely. The red card changed the game for Motherwell, but in terms of Ross County, they have shown a lot of good resilience. I think they've got a lot of good character just now, Malky Mackay's side, and they've got a lot of good forward-thinking players. Calkin's keep coming out of the game. Joseph Humbo's been brilliant. Vegan Charles Cook, he's been playing a blinder over the last few weeks. Was brilliant against Johnstone and had another fantastic performance on Tuesday night in the disposal of Motherwell there. So they've been coming up with some big performances, and let's not forget Jordan White. He's capable of popping up with some big goals in big games as well. So that was a big win for Ross County, but also on the other side, a big win as well for Livingston the other night because they beat Dundee 2-0. And good to see Bruce Anderson getting 2 goals because 7 for the season now. He's obviously proven a few doubters wrong, so it shapes up for a very tasty game tomorrow, considering both sides won on Tuesday night there.
Absolutely. I mean, at the start of the season, I was sort of thinking maybe Livingston and Ross County will be down round about the relegation zone. They're not a million miles away from it at the minute, but they're not the 2 teams that you'd say would be battling for that position at the end of the season. I think they've just got enough about them. So fair play to them because they didn't have the best start to the season. There does have to be a winner in this one because it will go to extra time and penalties. And I think Livingston should just have enough. I think that run of Bruce Anderson's will continue. I fancy them to win 2-1.
1-0 Livingston.
1-0 Livy. We go down the Ayrshire coast off to Somerset Park as Ayr United take on St Mirren. Ayr United sort of hit and miss in the Championship this season. St Mirren having some struggles of their own. It looks as if Jamie McGrath will be leaving the club at some point in this window. It's just a case of when, not if. I wonder if the move of Martin Boyle today to the Saudi Arabian side will maybe trigger a bit of transfer merry-go-round. What do you think, Dave?
I think it will. I mean, Jamie McGrath was probably... Well, it was looking like being Albion first and foremost, and then that was completely extinguished on Monday. England's situation has gone a little bit quiet of late, so Hibernian isn't a bad option at all for Jamie McGrath. Whether we see any movement in that, time will tell, but it would be a good move, and Jamie McGrath would suit the way Hibs play, yes. Yeah,
I think they're still missing that sort of... Not a number 10, because he's not really a number 10, but that attack-minded midfielder that he is. And when you look at it, for the money that they're going to bring in for Martin Boyle and what they'll have to pay out for Jamie McGrath, it just makes sense. And you saw the success of players that's moved from St Mirren to Hibs before. You just never know what you could get as a sell-on for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, football and business is football is a business, and you need to get it right, or else you're going to find yourselves dreading over. And for me, if Hibs can go and get this right and get the right man in, and the right man is probably Jamie McGrath, or Hibs have been renowned in the past for getting left field appointments, both in terms of playing and management, and they're capable of doing that as well. They've been linked with David Shea Mitchell from Blackpool, which I don't think is going to actually materialise, but in terms of that, they are looking and being very proactive. So it's going to be an interesting couple of days for Hibs. And Hibs have got the luxury where they've got a couple of days off now, and then obviously back in action midweek.
So going back to Ayr United and St Mirren, Ayr United obviously with their new manager just settling in, big chance for him to get a victory under his belt. I think it might just come too soon for them. I think St Mirren on paper should just have enough. I fancy Eamon Brophy to have a big game on Saturday. I'm going to go with a 1-0 St Mirren victory.
3-1 St Mirren.
3-1 St Mirren. A lot of goals to be had on that one. And finally, up to the northeast and to Pittodrie, where Aberdeen take on Edinburgh City. Edinburgh City, for me, were a team that you always wanted to keep an eye on because they came into the league system, they were playing some good football, they were running away with League Two. Not quite been the same since they made the move up to League One, but League One is very competitive with the amount of teams that's kind of throwing money at their clubs at the minute. Aberdeen kind of coming off the back of that performance against Rangers on Wednesday night. A pretty valiant effort, it has to be said, against Rangers. I do think Aberdeen will make quite a few changes for this game, though. I think Stephen Glass will give some of his youngsters a chance. It'll be interesting to see who maybe starts up front. Will it be guys like J. Emmanuel Thomas could maybe come back into the fold? Will the likes of Jack McKenzie still play at left back, Callum Ramsey right back? Who'll start in goals? Maybe Gary Woods. There'll definitely be changes to this one, but I still see Aberdeen having more than enough to put this one away, and I'm going for an Aberdeen 4-0 victory.
Yeah, before I give you my prediction, I'd like to see Michael Roofe get a start tomorrow because he's just been recalled from Falkirk. And I'd like to see him getting a start tomorrow. Maybe either as a sole striker or with another one. But I fancy Aberdeen get the job done and I'll go for 3-0 the Dons.
3-0 to the Dons. No shocks coming there, but maybe one coming up in this next game as we go back down the Ayrshire coast and we take a look at the junior sides left in the fourth round, and we start at Auchinleck Talbot as they take on a Hearts side. Now, Auchinleck made the fifth round in 2018-19, again against Hearts, and back in 2011-12, they made the fourth round against Hearts. So it's no surprise that when this draw came out, that they were drawn against Hearts again. Look, when you take a look at it, I think the stats show, and someone said it in the chat earlier on in the week, every time that Hearts get drawn against Auchinleck Talbot, they end up making the final of the competition. So if you are a betting man, then here's a wee kind of a tip for you. Maybe stick Hearts on to make it the whole way. But when you look at it, Auchinleck, they're that sort of fairy tale story. They keep going up there. They beat Ayr United in the fourth round a couple of years ago. And they've got some really, really good players. It's just that the junior football life seems to suit them, and they've always been that sort of junior team that's got the big crowds, got the big fan base, and they always give the big teams a chance. They always give the big teams a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's put this straight first and foremost. They wouldn't look out of place in the Scottish League, and they've shown that in the past with victories over Ayr United. They beat Hamilton in the last round, which was a fantastic victory. And then obviously they've played Hearts, and Hearts haven't found it easy, and they've had to scrape in the barrel to ease past the Talbot. And the Talbot's got a lot of good players. They've got Leishman in goals, but also they've got a lot of good players across the park as well. What Talbot are good at is they have a lot of players all over the park, and they're a close-knit team. It's not like they've just came in and they've been there for 1 or 2 years. There's players in there that have been there for 6, 7, 8 years, and they've formed a very good relationship with each other, which has obviously helped in terms of them winning games consistently. They've got the boy Shanklin, Mark Shanklin, I think it is, who's a really, really good player. They've got the boy Stephen Wilson. I don't know if he's still there actually, but I watched him against Fraserburgh a few years ago, and he was a tremendous player, really good central midfielder. And it's actually funny because you're seeing a lot of these players, and you're doing your homework on a lot of these players, and it's not like they've actually been at a Kilmarnock or an Ayr or a Celtic or a Rangers or a Mirren or a Hearts or a Hibs, and then got released at full-time level and then went down to Talbot. They've actually been involved in the various boys clubs and then been involved with Talbot, which just goes to show you that Talbot have got a lot of faith in the grassroots system, which is fantastic to see.
Definitely, and as I said, it's all about how much of a challenge that's put up against Hearts, and it all comes down to who Hearts play as well. I mean, we spoke about this game through the week. Hearts have Celtic in the league, and it's not an insurmountable lead that Celtic have over Hearts, if you look at it. And the games this season have been very, very tasty. The last thing that Hearts will want to do on Saturday is put guys like, I'm not going to say Suter because I don't think they'll be overly concerned if Suter picked up an injury, but guys like Boyce and Ginelli and I'm trying to think in the midfield, Beningame, if he's back fit again, they wouldn't want those injuries to be picked up and cause them problems in the league because they've been so impressive so far this season. When you look at Talbot, now Talbot are second in the West of Scotland Premier League. That's another couple of leagues below even League Two. You get promoted into the Lowland League and then into the playoff with the Lowland League, Highland League teams just to get into League Two. So they're a good couple of seasons away from getting to that level. But they have shown year after year that over the 90 minutes, they can keep up with the big teams. And I don't think this is going to be so much of a walkover for Hearts. I could see, if you had to pick a shock upset at the weekend, for a lot of people, this will be the one that they're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say in your point regarding walkovers and stuff like that is the West of Scotland Premier League and the juniors, that's probably an SPFL League 1 or League 2 standard when you look at it. Like Pollock, Kilwinning, Auchinleck, Lithgow, Darvel, they wouldn't look out a place in League 1, I don't think. And I'm not being bold when I say that, because I think we've seen it with some of the results already in this competition, that they wouldn't look out of place, and they would be fantastic assets to the Scottish League if they ever got there in the near future. But on to Hearts, and I think Brora is still fresh in the mind. Obviously, they had the bad defeat to Brora last year, and Robbie Neilson was still in the job. There was a lot of Hearts fans, obviously, and understandably so, wanting him gone after that by mutual consent, but that never obviously materialised, and the rest is history. Robbie Neilson has managed to get a fine share of his Hearts players, strengthened a few players, and then obviously they're currently third right now, not an insurmountable points tally behind Celtic. They've obviously got Celtic on Wednesday, but the most important thing from Robbie Neilson's perspective is to get the job done tomorrow. I think Robbie Neilson's built up enough integrity in terms of results at Hearts to suggest that if there was any shock tomorrow, he wouldn't be under pressure. He'd be under pressure, I beg your pardon, sorry, but he wouldn't be getting dismissed, I don't think. But the football swings around about, it can work any way you possibly can.
A good point coming in here from RFC 56 titles. All the big teams are prone to getting beat by smaller teams. They have 0 to lose and everything to game. The game last night showed that, and it did. That game last night, the Hibs versus Cove Rangers, even when Hibs went 1-0 up, Cove had a couple of chances to come in and try and get the equaliser and take the game to penalties. They did not give up, and it just shows you these guys are maybe working 9-10 hours a day, but when it comes down to playing football, the standard is up there. You've got guys like Ronnie McAllister, who's banged in, over 200 goals at the lower level. He's been linked with moves further up the chain, but between the money that he's getting paying part-time and his full-time salary, it's not been worth it to him. And you'll find there's quite a few players that's like that in the Lowlands and the Highlands League. So just because they're playing at that level doesn't mean that that's a level that they should be recognised at. A lot of these guys could make a step up very quickly and make a big impact. And I think what you saw was when the Lowland League and the Highland League went into lockdown and the games continued in League 1, League 2 and the Championship last season, a lot of these players got loan moves to the bigger teams and they did not look out of place.
Well, it's like Nathan Austin went to East Fife and banned in goals. Peterhead tried to get Scott Barber from Fraserburgh, and it never exactly materialised for Barber because I'm led to believe the train was in Dundee and Barber stays in Fraserburgh, so it never materialised that way. But he would have been another player that wouldn't have looked out of place. But yeah, you're right. A lot of these the Highland League and the Lowland League and the juniors, it is a League 1 and League 2 standard. Probably a lower end of that specific leagues, but they definitely would be getting relegated, and they would definitely be a lot better than the Crowley Beefs and Albion Rovers and Elgin Cities in this world.
And they'd obviously have more finances available to them as well, so it'd be interested to see what would happen. Let's go and make a prediction for this game though, as we're getting on in time. Auchinleck Talbot is the 12:30 kickoff. It's live on BBC tomorrow. I think this will be a very, very close one. I can see goals in it for both teams, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory for Hearts.
Yeah, I'll be tight. I'm going to put my neck in the line here. Extra time, and then Hearts to win 2-1.
2-1 in extra time. Do you know, I bet there was a couple of contributors sitting watching this, wondering where you were going, and you were going to get some amount of abuse in the chat in the next couple of minutes if you'd went the other way with the jambos that we've got. But no, I think Hearts will have enough to get it done and get it over the line. We have 5 more games to cover. Just so much football this weekend. I'm absolutely loving it. And what I'm loving is most of the games are tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
3 o'clock kickoffs. That's a great thing.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock's a traditional kick-off time in any form of football. And yeah, it's good that we had a game last night because it gave the fans and the Scottish football public a bit of Thursday night entertainment. Good that we've got a game tonight because it's Friday night football. Rangers will probably bring a big crowd. Stirling Albion will bring a couple hundred as well. It'll be a great night for everybody associated with Stirling Albion Football Club. And obviously, all the games tomorrow is fantastic, and it means that there's no games on Sunday, and everybody can have a nice big hangover on Sunday morning.
They can, you mean celebrate all their winnings on Sunday morning? No, but one thing I do want to touch on before we go on, that crowd at Easter Road last night, that was actually quite disappointing, I thought. I think the eventual crowd is 5,900. I know it's only Cove Rangers. I know it's an early round of the Scottish Cup. I don't know what Hibs were charging for it, but, I mean, Thursday night football, Celtic and Rangers fans will tell you some of the best nights to play football on Thursday nights because it takes you right into the weekend and you're looking forward to it. There's nothing else happening this weekend now for Hibs. They've nothing to look forward to. Hibs, if they've priced fans out the game, that was stupid. But just watching it on the TV last night, it just looked completely boring with the empty stands, and they deliberately moved the camera angle so it looked as if there was more people in the ground.
Yeah, I'm led to believe it was £15 to enter last night.
It's not the worst, but for a Thursday night, I mean, I think season ticket holders, after everything that they've been through over the last year or two, considering they've been locked out and stuff like that, maybe there was a deal to be done there. It could have been priced at a £5 or something like that.
Well, apparently, according to SFA's rules, apparently that's the lowest a club can charge after the 4th round.
Is that all it is?
Apparently, £15 is the cap for the lowest price, which I don't agree with.
That's a real shame. That you just wonder if maybe Hibs could have subsidised that in any way as well, just to kind of draw in the crowds, because it did look very empty. And you look at it, there was probably 10, 15 times the amount of people watching it on TV than what was at it. And if you price it properly, you could have really sold out Easter Road.
100%. I mean, Hibs will be a club that will be looking and expecting to go and challenge in the latter stages of the competition this year. They reached the final last year, albeit they're going to meet with St Johnstone in the final, and you've like to thought Hibs would have got a little bit of a resurgence off of that. They'd have had a little bit of a bounce off of that, going, right, we reached the Scottish Cup final last year. Let's go and back our boys. Let's go and cheer the boys on. But then 5,000 fans is very poor indeed. And I've got a little bit of sympathy for Cove Rangers as well, because obviously the gate money is equal in this competition, meaning Cove Rangers wouldn't have got the money that they'd have likely to have gotten. So it's disappointing from all accounts.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think even the Thursday night had anything to do with it. I think even on a Saturday at those prices, you wouldn't have seen a lot more through the gates. It was a real shame. But yeah, there's a couple of people coming in saying maybe £5 a ticket, as you said, if that is the rights and the competition is set that the minimum price is £15, then it is what it is. But something I feel as if that's something they need to work on, especially if you want to try and get fans back to the games.
The Scottish Cup round 1 and 2, they're 10. Well, unless the League 2, League 1 clubs say differently, they're capped at £10, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I do remember going to the earlier rounds of the Scottish Cup, and this is back when Celtic and Rangers used to come in at round 3 instead of round 4, and on your season book it used to be included. So it was a game that was given to you. Now, I don't know if Celtic then had to go and subsidise the cost of that to give it to the because the gates are split 50-50. But I mean, it's a great gesture, and for fans that have spent so much money over this last period, I think anything that could have been done to get a bigger crowd last night should have been looked at.
Well, I know it's Rangers fans today complaining it's £45 for Borussia Dortmund. So there you go, chalk and cheese. Obviously, there's a big, magnificent tie there with Rangers and Borussia Dortmund, and then there's obviously fans that just aren't willing to pay the £15 to go watch a Scottish Cup tie involving Cove Rangers, who are indeed fantastic, going well in League One, and then Hibs side are in probably who are in pushing for European football.
Well, the one player that did stick out for me last night was Harry Milne, the left back for Cove Rangers, and I think we may see him make a move up the leagues over the next couple of years. Great performance at left back from him last night. We do have to move on though. Time is of the essence, and we have 5 games left to cover. We're starting up in Peterhead as Peterhead take on Lowland League side East Kilbride. East Kilbride are becoming a more regular figure in these latter rounds of the Scottish Cup. People remember maybe the time when they took on Celtic a couple of years ago, when Colin Kazim Richards scored one of the only 2 goals that day. Peterhead, again, a team that were struggling towards the bottom of the table, but on their day can be a very difficult side to face, as Colin Briers will tell you. I fancy them to win this one, probably quite comfortably. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Peterhead one.
Yeah, I'll go 1-1 this time. I'll go 2-0.
2-0 to Peterhead. Now, another junior team that have made their way into this is Banks OD. Now, I think they have the award for the smallest stadium in Scottish football? It's like 150 people or something like that. They can fit into that wee stand.
No, it's bigger than East Kilbride. Put it that way. They can fit 1,000.
They can fit 1,000 in that?
Yeah, there's 350 tickets for Raith Rovers. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is, if you, I'll try and be a little bit geographical here. If you go to this side of the stand, there's no enclosure. You can't stand there, basically, right?
No.
The side, there's a big enclosure. Behind that goal, there's basically, if you need to be my height, 6'4", to watch the game, because there's a massive gate. And then obviously there's a wee little terracing bit, and then the stand, so you can fit in 1,000, no problem.
Jeez, it looks one of the smallest grounds in Scottish football. Always pass it on the way up to Pittodrie and think if you got 50 people in there, it would look like a full house. But no, that's impressive to find out. And a great impressive run they have made to the latter rounds of the Scottish Cup. In the 4th round for what I believe is the first time, up against a Raith Rovers side who arguably play better away from home than at home. You saw what happened to them on Saturday, losing to Broth in the last couple of minutes. I think, unfortunately, the fairy tale for Banks OD will end on Saturday, but I think they'll put up a valiant effort. I fancy Raith Rovers to come away with this with a 2-0 victory.
Yeah, I fancy 3-1 Raith Rovers, but what I'll say in the Auchinleck front is Banks OD, right? If you, for the Highland League, for nobody knows, I'll be brief on this because time is of the essence, of course, but in the Highland League, you can do a lot of travelling. Banks OD, a lot of the clubs that they play in their league are from Aberdeen, so it means you could be playing a game at 2 o'clock and then back in your house by 4:30, ready to watch Man United against Liverpool.
Well, I mean, that's obviously the encouraging thing. Did Edinburgh City not do that? Played all their games on a Friday night so that they could attract the crowds that were going to Tynecastle and going to Easter Road and stuff like that as well. So,
yeah.
Interesting. It's a good tactic. And finally, the fairy tale story of Clydebank playing at home park against Annan Athletic. Clydebank obviously knocking out Clyde in the last round in the big Clyde derby. See how many times you can fit Clyde into a sentence. I think, again, the 4th round's probably as far as a lot of these teams are getting. Clydebank, another West of Scotland Premier side. I think Annan Athletic will just have too much for them on the day. Fancy them to win 2-1.
Other way around. I'm going to go 1-0 Clydebank.
1-0. They'll be partying on the streets of Clydebank, the Bankies. It's a fairy tale story. We were talking about this in the chat the other day. You have to go back to, 2002, 2003, roughly, when Clydebank were a championship side and they were ground sharing at Capello. And to see how far that this sort of rebuild has come, it's fantastic. So, I mean, that would be one of the sort of biggest achievements they'll have ever had since the rebirth.
Oh, 100%, yeah, totally.
I don't know what you were celebrating there. It did sound as if you let one rip there, Dave. I don't know. I'm sure you're going to blame the chair.
It's a chair, so it's a bit squeaky.
I knew you were going to blame the chair. Let's look at another West of Scotland side, and it's the two surprise packages of the season. It is Arbroath versus Darvel, which I think is the potential to be the tie of the round. Surprise part-time team Arbroath, 4 points clear at the top of the championship, and you've got heavily backed Darvel FC with their manager Mick Kennedy, and some players that were playing in League One in the championship last year. Ross Perry, Craig Little, Craig Moore. The question that I look at is, with Arbroath doing so well in the championship, do they see this as a chance to maybe rest a couple of players and then potentially have the shock upset of losing to Darvel? Or do they have enough of a squad to keep it going, and potentially if they pick up an injury or two, it costs them in the championship title run-in?
I think Dick Campbell will rest a few players. I don't think he'll rest the whole team, because they got found out against Aberdeen, Colts in the SPFL Trophy at the beginning of the season, where McKenna didn't play, a few defenders didn't play, Gaston didn't play, and Arbroath for the better side, but they didn't show enough quality or enough instinct in front of goal that day, and Aberdeen went on to win in penalties. So I think Dick Campbell will get the balance right tomorrow.
Well, I mean, it's always that sort of struggle, isn't it? Because nobody expected Arbroath to be sitting in the position that they're sitting in. And it is all about the camaraderie of the squad. Now, local boy Nicky Lowe, who plays for them, he has been instrumental. He scored the winning goal at the weekend from the penalty spot, only just coming back from injury. They had the boy on loan from Livingston earlier on in the season, who's now been recalled. They've lost a couple of players. They've had to rebuild and get that momentum going once again. So, I mean, if Dick Campbell can get Arbroath into the Premier League, is that the single greatest achievement of lower league football history?
Yeah, 100%. It's been compared like Leicester winning the Premier League in England, and in Scottish football terms, it would be up there. It would be magnificent. It would be the greatest achievement in Scottish football history.
No, I wouldn't say Scottish football history. I'd say lower league football history.
Oh, Lord, okay, beg your pardon. Yeah, in terms of Scottish football history, that's probably Celtic winning the European Cup, or Aberdeen winning the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah, I think obviously the teams winning the trophies like Aberdeen, Rangers, and Celtic, that would be up there. And then this wouldn't be too far behind. I think this would be incredible. Mm-hmm. And up there with the national team beating the World Cup winners England at Wembley. That it's in that sort of order. And it has to be said, if anybody had any sort of sense, they would have made a documentary on Dick Campbell on this season, because what a watch back that'll be at the end of the year, regardless of how it ends.
Oh, 100%. And I must say, I think the guys at DLR Media, just to give them a free advertisement there, I think they'll go and do something, because they do a lot of terrific work with Arbroath, and their social media coverage is very good. So I'm expecting something from the club's in-house media team at come the end of the season.
In terms of the game, though, Arbroath versus Darvel, a big shout out to Darvel. I mean, they're doing really well. They're doing it properly. They're putting the foundations down for, pardon me, their pitch, their stadium, the team as well. Mick Kennedy's doing a fantastic job. He's not just doing it on the park, he's doing it off the park as the owner of the Black Rooster franchise. I just think this will be one of those games that will be end to end, and it will be worth watching Sports Scene for the highlights of this one. This could be one of the ones they really focus on. Arbroath, if they go with a first team, should have enough to get it done in the end. And that's what I think they're going to go for, and I fancy them to win 2-1.
Yeah, I'll be close. I'm going to give you 2-1.
2-1 to Arbroath. Now, that is us covered all but one tie, and it is the tie that is taking place this evening between Rangers and Stirling Albion. And for those that are tuning in from a Rangers persuasion, here is the lineup for Rangers this evening. In goals is John McLaughlin. The back four is Tavernier, Simpson, Goldson and Balogun. In midfield is Lundstrom, Hadji and Barker and Bakuna. And up front it is Fashion, Sakala and Cedric Eaton. What do you make of that team, David?
Yeah, strong team that. I mean, they've obviously changed one or two things. McLaughlin starting to goal is justified because Gerard McGregor has been playing a lot of games. Big game for Jack Simpson tonight. Colson comes in, Balgan comes in, Tavernier plays as per usual. Hadji and Lundstrom, they're in. So Giovanni Van Bronckhorst isn't taking this lightly, and full credit to him for that. And also, my question mark would be: I don't think it would be needed, but they don't have too many standout players on the bench. They've got Scott Wright, Kemar Roof that could come on and make a difference. No one else tonight. No one else tonight, which is a bit of a surprise. But good team overall from a Rangers persuasion.
Yeah, the subs that you're alluding to, you've got McCrory on the bench, and Bassey, Sands, Wright, Roof, McCann, King and Lowry. A couple of the younger Rangers players been given the chance on the bench the last couple of weeks. McCann and King definitely been in and around there. I mean, that should be more than enough to get the job done for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst tonight, and especially at Ibrox. I'm not sure what the crowd's going to be, but you'd think that would be more than enough, and they'll make their way into the next round quite comfortably.
Yeah, it'll be a shock and a half if Stirling Albion do get the job done tonight. 33-1 if you're going to bet responsibly, of course. But Darren Young's side, Darren has come in and got some big results during his time at Forth Bank Stadium so far. And it's a big occasion for Stirling Albion, but from a Rangers perspective, get a few goals early doors they'll be hoping for, and then that probably sails them through to the extra round with ease.
Stirling Albion side is Curry in goal, defensive McGeechy, Cummins, McGregor and Hancock, midfield of Moore, Grant, Leach, Roberts and Flanagan, and up front is Francis. On the bench, subs are Law, McNiff, Creaney, Heaver, Banner, Mackin and Carrick. As you said, apart from maybe Dale Carrick, there's not a lot of players on that Stirling Albion side who will be known to fans who maybe only take a look at the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah, Mason Hancock is one to look out for, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an Aberdeen fan, but I have watched him a few times for Aberdeen youth teams, and that he is a good player, so I'm looking forward to seeing Hancock tonight. But apart from that, there's very little players to choose there. Nathan Flanagan, I've seen him a few times, good player, good bit of trickery about him. Jack Leach, he's the brother of Robbie that played for Cove last night. Mm-hmm. He's the father of Scott, so he'll be looking to have a big game. A bit like his brother came on last night, so Jack Keff is the S point over Robbie right now, because Jack will all go to plan to play full 90 tonight.
Well, I mean, I don't think we'll see this one going to extra time, but let's get your prediction for how this one's going to go.
I'm going to go for 3-0 Rangers.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 1-up on you, and I'll go 4-0. I think it'll be an interesting one. Seeing guys like Cedric Eaton, although he was on loan at the Bundesliga for the first half of the season, wasn't anything that was inspiring. With Rangers set to lose Alfredo Morelos for the Colombia game, ahead of what will be a massive Glasgow derby in a week or so's time, you're just wondering, is he going to get some minutes between now and then to sort of get that confidence back? Because otherwise, I don't know how comfortable you'd be as a Rangers fan getting into that game if it was only Sakala you could play up front.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that I actually thought he was maybe away right now. That's why I was a little bit questionable in terms of why he wasn't in the squad tonight. But in terms of Rangers, they probably do need an extra forward to bring in, and that's been Rangers' downfall in a few years now. It's been the fact that they have had Morelos scoring goals and a forward-thinking player scoring goals, and they maybe haven't had the depth required.
And I mean, you take a look at it, you want the game to be played with the best squads possible, but I mean, it's far from anybody to request a cancellation of that game, because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, depending on which side of the equation you fall under. No, look, this has been a great coverage of the Scottish Cup 4th round. If you have missed any of the games that we've covered, go right back to the start and do so, check in, and you'll see all of our predictions. It's been great having you all in the comment section today. If you are watching, subscribe to the channel. There's some fantastic content out there, especially if you're a fan of Scottish football or of live music. Our next live session is with Greenock singer Mark McLean. Definitely check that one out. We will be back here on Monday night to review the Scottish Cup 4th round fixtures, and we will see who will be the shock upset of the round. We've made our predictions. We fancy Kelty to be one of those teams that we'll be talking about on Monday night. And, well, if you're Dave and you've got his big coupon on, then he might be talking about a surprise victory for the Bankies. But until then, if you're going to the game, enjoy yourself. It's great to be back at the football, especially with the full crowds. Scott Howe comes in late as ever, saying, sorry I'm late tonight, Emmerdale Coronation time. We know that you're a Tyrone, Scott. That's it, you're a Tyrone. We've dealt with it. But yeah, Dave, thank you very much for joining me this evening. We'll be back next Friday night when we'll have some Premiership action to look forward to. But until then, everybody, stay safe, enjoy your games, and we'll see you all on Monday.